Welcome to the City Current Radio Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good in our community. And we're kicking off talking about LITE Memphis, focused on entrepreneurialism, innovation here in the Mid-South, and so much more. We're joined by their Executive Director, Lakethia Glenn. And let's start. How are you doing?
I am doing well, Jeremy. I am so excited to be joining you this morning.
Well, you have an amazing, difference that you all are making, especially in this world of entrepreneurialism and the ecosystem that's helping students succeed. You've got some powerful stories there, but let's start. Give us a little bit of the history for LITE Memphis.
LITE Memphis is about 7 years old. We were founded here in Memphis to help African American and Latinx students start business ventures through the arm of entrepreneurship. So our founder realized very quickly that there was a gap between access for students of color and their peers. So he created LITE Memphis to help bridge that gap.
Talk about the students in terms of their ages, where, in terms of the programmatic pieces. Give us some geography and ages for the students.
Our students are all over Shelby County. They come from charter schools, the Shelby County Schools District, and the outlying municipalities. The only requirement for our students is to be at least 10th grade, where there's actually several African American or Latinx, so that is our core demographic. And then we take you through an open enrollment process where students have to talk about what are their visions for the future and what they hope to accomplish. And then we are accepted into the program from there.
So let's go ahead and dive into the program. One of the things that I personally love, because I've had a chance to work with the students and do some mentoring myself, is you really take an innovative approach to the way that you teach entrepreneurialism. And so you encourage them to look around in their neighborhoods and see a problem and then come up with a solution, and then, work from there to create the plan. And they've got the mentorship and the structure around that, but it's really around problem solving, which is so much bigger than just starting a business. It's a life skill that will give them success no matter what they do moving forward. But dive into the program.
That is exactly correct. It is important that we identify the need in the community, and even better, identify need in the market. Because just to start another entrepreneurship business is not what we want our students to do. We want them to really address challenges that are around them, that they see in every day. And though products exist on the market, there's always a niche we can try to find to be able to fix the problem that we're having. So we really focus on our students identifying those problems and launching their ventures with that in mind.
So at this point, you've had, as you mentioned, when you look at the years that you've been doing this, you've had a lot of success stories that continue to build. So paint the picture of what success looks like on your end.
Success looks like on our end is one of our students who launched a 3D business last semester. It was as the pandemic was happening, he was in LITE's program doing 3D printing. And because of the coronavirus, he started to produce door pulls and mask holders to keep masks in place. So in that, he was able to quickly identify a need in the market and pivot his business to be able to answer that call. That is one of many success stories that we have. We have another student who is actually a digital printer, and he created our masks for the coronavirus and actually have all of our students representing LITE. And we was able to pair him with Interscope Records. And now he's in a partnership with them creating merchandise.
You now have students, because of the longevity of the program, who are graduating college and going off and starting their careers and starting, obviously, these businesses as a college graduate. What does that look like for LITE Memphis?
Yes, we are now, last summer, we had 7 students that graduated from college because our program is about 7 years old. They're just starting to graduate. One of our great students went on to start a business and is continuing that. We have students who wanted to be a veterinarian, and we were able to place her at a clinic here in Memphis to start her journey to opening her own clinic. So those students are continuing on in their endeavors. Though I must say the pandemic has really made it somewhat challenging for our students as they're coming out of college to go right into the workforce because it all happens simultaneously. But we are helping those students as much as we can, putting them in jobs and opportunities.
Yeah, talk about what the pandemic has caused in terms of the impact on your programs. Let's kind of touch on that. Is how have you had to shift and pivot based on the pandemic?
Like many of our nonprofit peers, we had to go completely remote. This is we're in our third cohort, believe it or not, that is completely remote. We have not met these students. And ironically enough, our students have still been producing, still been launching ventures throughout this. I keep calling these students, Jeremy, resilient, because to balance, most of our students are in school virtually all day. And then to be able to balance to launch a venture with all of this happening at the same time has shown a level of resilience that I find inspiring for our students.
I think it also too, it's a real world application when you look at, okay, we're in the middle of the pandemic and yet you're trying to launch a business. Now the game has changed for everyone, for all businesses. And so how do you keep up? How do you pivot? How do you innovate? How do you figure out, what the challenges are, but still provide the opportunity and the customer service and all those things? So in a way, it's a perfect kind of laboratory, so to speak, to launch a business and figure out, okay, we're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink basically at you at the same time. And you got to figure out what to do with it and still be successful. And oh yeah, that's how you launch a business.
That's very true. We could not have asked for a better generation of students for this to happen with. If you're going to find one, they are very tech savvy. And doing so, where most businesses are trying to figure out Facebook and how to sell things on Instagram, our students were already there. They already knew how to kind of maneuver these technological spaces. If you're like me, I'm still learning about these things, but they were on the cusp of it. This is a technologically savvy generation. And so they have used those resources to continue launching their ventures and getting in front of clients where they can sell their items.
What's been something that you've learned from the students or an aha moment on your end? Obviously you mentioned the resiliency, but what's something that you've learned working with the students, especially during the last, year with the pandemic?
A level of flexibility that I don't know that I've always had. Sometimes you think of things should be a certain way and then that's the way you want it to be. Where our students have been able to transition and be flexible no matter how we're throwing it to them. There have been times when our students didn't have laptops or they weren't working, and immediately our students transitioned to their cell phones. And in the session, you're seeing a student holding up a cell phone just because they want to be a part of this session when they don't have to do it. So to be able to be flexible and maneuver and adjust to everything that's ever changing right now is something that I'll carry with me always, that I've learned from our students.
Give us the cornerstone pieces of your program. When you talk about the highlights and the special pieces, the differentiators, give us some of those for LITE Memphis. To me, it's the mentoring and some of those components. But when you talk about learning how to, structure and write a business plan and a SWOT analysis and the budgeting and all those things, those to me are very important critical elements. But what are some of those differentiators for LITE Memphis?
Being able to know how to compete in the business sector and knowing how to carry yourself in a way that you make an impression that's everlasting is something that I think our students carry. We place students in internships, and when we did the reviews from the employers last summer, I cannot tell you how many employers say these students are a step above. The way they hold themselves, the way they're able to complete their tasks and speak is something that I have not seen in quite a while. And that is attributed to what LITE gives students the opportunity to be able to learn these 21st century skills in a way that benefits them. Outside of entrepreneurship, if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, you have these skills to be able to be a business leader or an innovator here in Memphis.
Carry that forward on the ripple effect for Memphis, because as you mentioned, either way, this is a program where they learn self-confidence, communication, problem solving. All of these are teamwork. I mean, all of these are things that are going to help them be successful as leaders in our community. So I think that's one ripple effect for sure. But then when you mention the groups that you're working with to give them opportunities in an area where our city desperately needs more opportunities for these different communities, carry the conversation forward on the ripple effect that you're creating through LITE Memphis.
Luckily for LITE Memphis, we have been able to have great partnerships with our community partners and expanding that. And through LITE Memphis, the University of Memphis now offer our students 3 credit hours if you complete our program in the curriculum. That is a big deal to be able to offer students credits to go to a local university, because we know that oftentimes when students attend a university, they'll work in that same town once they graduate. So our hope for LITE is that we will continue to grow out these relationships with the universities and encourage students to stay here in Memphis. The last thing we want to do is equip students with these great skills, and then we don't have jobs or opportunities for them to do right here in Memphis. So our goal is to teach our students what they need to know, and then for them to work right here at home.
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about transforming communities, it starts with leadership. It starts with individuals pouring in, and that's what you're doing. Is you're creating the catalyst, the individuals to go in and transform communities. But there's also a wealth building piece of this, and really focusing on the wealth gap. Talk about that side of your efforts as well.
Yes, Memphis is 70% African American, but only 2% of the business revenue come from African American and Latinx communities. We want to change that. We want our students to be entrepreneurs and start businesses, because we know that transforms generational income and generational wealth. So we want them to be able to do that. And if not an entrepreneur, we want you to have the skills to be able to secure a high-paying job. That changes lives. And so we know that by implementing these status and helping students acquire these skills, we'll be able to change not only our student, but their families for generations to come.
Yeah. How can we help?
We need volunteers. We're always placing volunteers. And for us, volunteers can be in person. Right now, that's virtual, once a week. Or you can be a dream team member where you are actually reading over our student business plans and giving them feedback on their professional emails that we have them craft for each cohort that comes through. We're also always looking for resources to help continue our program, because though our program is free to our student, it does come at a cost, and we're always looking for partners to help us in that way as well.
What's maybe 1 or 2 other things that you definitely want everyone to know about LITE Memphis?
LITE Memphis is unique. We are here in Memphis, Tennessee, helping our students transform their lives in a way that's not duplicated across the United States. And that's something to be proud of. And to be able to have partnerships with our nonprofit partners, as well as the universities, and encourage our students to stay here. We are going to transform Memphis through our young people, and we need your help to do it.
I think it's important to know that LITE Memphis has gotten some really national and even international exposure for your work. And when you talk about an entrepreneurial ecosystem, in many cases, the adults kind of get the spotlight for the work that's being done. But when you talk about really creating change, getting in at an earlier level is really important, because at that age, they're like sponges and they want to learn. And so if you can equip them, but also to guide them in the right direction. And in many cases, just they have an idea that's big, but they don't know where to start. And giving them a starting point and clarity around that helps them realize at an early age, they can be a change maker. And so the earlier that they figure out they can be a change maker and that the destiny is in their hands, they just need to figure out, kind of what the starting point is and how to navigate that, the quicker that we can transform our communities, and definitely Memphis in the Mid-South, but it also too, it really gives us a leading edge because they're earlier on in that transformation. So that's kind of my vantage point, but talk about it from that standpoint of getting in early with what you're doing, so that it's not, okay, they're 30 years old. It's okay, no, they're in high school and they're able to transform and look at the legacy they can create at an earlier age.
That's very true, Jeremy. The average age of an entrepreneur is 27 years old. So to start in high school, and what LITE hopes to do through partnerships, is to have a true entrepreneurship pipeline here in Memphis. So you start them in elementary school thinking about entrepreneurship, and then LITE grabs them in high school. And then we want our pipeline where we're passing them on to the next organization that is actually focused on entrepreneur, as Epicenter, Startco, and things of that nature. And you have them on each level, kind of not taking away the guesswork out of this. This should not be such a cumbersome process. So what we hope to do is be able to transition an entrepreneur from start all the way to launching their successful business through a pipeline that's stable right here.
Yeah, and I think once again, you look at the ripple effect. You create homegrown success stories who create transformation. You also, too, with this pipeline, like you're talking about, this system, this structure, it creates the opportunities for others to want to move here to the city because they're like, wow, look at this structure that's in place for my children, for me as a parent. Look at all these opportunities that exist in this city because of the thoughtfulness and the mindfulness of putting together the structure and the strategy where everyone wins. So wrap up and talk about where we can go to learn more about LITE Memphis, your website, social media, phone number. Where would you direct us?
We're doing this great work right here for youth in Memphis, Tennessee. You can find us at www.litememphis.org, or you can give us a call. We're still answering the phones at 901-209-9119.
Well, greatly appreciate all you and your team are doing. Thank you so much, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jeremy.